Good morning, everybody. I wish I could have a conversation with all the people who wrote the songs in this hymnal. There's not another church in the world, I think, that has songs like the songs in this hymnal. If most, and I've been in churches all around the world, and I'm just astounded at the lyrics, the mindset, the practicality of the way we operate here. I'm very impressed each year when I come this Sunday and see a church that's not necessarily associated with the African American culture, but that celebrates this day and Martin Luther King's birthday and sings "We Shall Overcome" and sings the National Negro anthem and feels comfortable with it. That's normal here for you, I suppose, but it's not normal in most places. You are a very weird group of people, and I'm so happy to be among you. Come on, let's celebrate our union. The lyrics in that song are just, you wouldn't find them in not any church I've ever been in, but it's so what we want. I wish I knew. I wish I could be. I wish these very simple desires. Isn't it interesting that 7.8 billion people on the planet, we all basically want the same thing. It's very simple: security, peace, love, camaraderie. And after all these years on the planet, we don't have it. And it's not overwhelming demands. We're not asking for things that are impossible or implausible. These are very simple needs. And somehow we haven't been able to achieve it. I'm titling my talk today, "Love, a Force or Farce?" And that's an awkward subject, love itself, and I'm quoting Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, "Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend." It's been interesting to say to him, who are your enemies and who are your friends? What enemies would you like? And I would ask you today, how many of you in here, or us in here today, have enemies that we'd like to be transformed into friends? And is the enemy you'd like transformed into a friend somebody you love? Is it someone in your family or a one-time dear friend that has now become distant and adversarial? If love is built on trust, are there people you love but don't trust? And are there people you trust but don't necessarily love? Love can be cryptic and caustic and even competitive in its essence. An opponent is not always our enemy or our adversary, just competitive. We must know the difference in this country today because the lines are getting murky and we're becoming an increasingly divided nation. We shall overcome. We're still singing that song, and we thought we'd overcome. We'd been to the mountaintop. I've seen the promised land. Some of us kind of felt that when Barack Obama and Michelle were living in the White House, and we have black judges and mayors and congressmen and senators and corporate executives, and it seemed that we were really living out much of Dr. King's dream, a dream that he died for, and many like him died. And then all of a sudden, how would we replace Barack Obama with Donald Trump? They're so different. Oh my God, they're so different. And I've never been that involved in politics. I mean, I was one of the few African-American Republicans. Of course, most African-Americans were Republicans up until Roosevelt, because the man who signed the Emancipation Proclamation, Abraham Lincoln, was Republican. And many blacks became Republicans and stayed Republican until the Depression, and Roosevelt did things for African-Americans and for poor people that we didn't expect to be done. And then many began to shift parties. This is a two-party country, but there are other parties going on, and everybody's not dancing at those parties. But they're out there. Here we are this week, almost traumatized by comments from the President of the United States. I cannot not mention it today, though that would have been my plan. That it appears to be blatant racism in the same Oval Office that the first African-American president, whom he didn't believe was an American citizen all this time. So I'm dealing with all this in my mind today as a young man who's 65 and not that young, but I keep saying that. What are we dealing with here in America? And has anybody we love hurt us? Many of the people who support, and it was really powerful that DACA actually means Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Most of us are childhood arrivals in America, or infant arrivals. We came here as babies. And nobody's threatening to send us out of this country because our parents weren't American. That should be a no-brainer. But right in the midst of immigrants and people coming and going, this whole idea of walls and keeping people out, I'm considering myself a radical inclusionist. I've not read an article that they tell me is front page in Tulsa today that came out. There's another one that came out years ago that my whole life changed. I don't know what this one will do. But it's stunned that I'm here because I'm an inclusionist. So when I hear people talk about exclusionism, and I have to wrestle with it myself, who am I excluding? What enemies have I not transformed by love? What enemies have you not transformed by love? When that person that you really love and who has become an enemy is somebody you birthed into the earth, or to whom you're married, or who you came here with as a sibling, or was at once your dearest friend, when that person switches, because nobody can hurt you or harm you or even hate you like somebody you love. There was a big amen on that one. It doesn't hurt as badly when, so here it is, America, the land that I love, the land of my choice, the land of my birth. I know that most generations were, the last 5-6 generations were Americans. I came from Africa many years ago, hundreds of years ago. I'm going to find out what country I came from. You should do it too. You might have come from Africa and don't know it. I might have come from Ireland and don't know it. We're really all the same, and we're wrestling here to make this thing work. But when does love that could be forceful become a farce or a joke? If the people and Senator Graham had a very wonderful response to the president's disparaging comments about certain countries being blank whole countries, that he actually said that in the Oval Office with people I guess he thought would relate to that comment and not be offended by it. But Senator Graham, who's a Republican, said, America is an idea, not a race. Powerful statement. America is an idea, not a race. But we're making it race. Dr. King was talking about using or employing love as a transformative agent toward people considered enemies or adversaries in that statement. To his audience, that adversarial or enemy would have been white racist people in America. To me, that could be Donald Trump and people who put him in the White House. Not all people, but many of them. Surely a house that has never seemed so white before. Ooh. Built by black people, slaves. Why is this a conversation? How did we get here? Tomorrow we celebrate Dr. King's birthday. He had a dream. We all have a dream. Why can't how did we shift? My friends all over the world, particularly those who are Christians, who were evangelized by Americans, are wondering where the evangelical church finds its space in supporting a man who has thoughts like Donald Trump. People from third world countries where I've shared and loved and been, and they're saying, what's going on over there? What are you thinking, America? How did you do this? Why did you do it? Well, there are millions of people who support the present administration and will. His base, however, is white evangelical Christians. That's one of his strongest bases. That's the group I grew up. I had some notoriety in the country for being able to pastor a church, found a church, pastor, and make it multicultural. We were known for that under a black man's leadership, that we had a wonderful diversity in our congregation. And I felt we'd made such headway, and then all of a sudden it's like, what did we do? It's not like I thought it was. Because I don't have that many fundamentalist friends who didn't vote for Trump and who are not very supportive of him. I mean, tongue-talking, pew-jumping, devil-thumping, Bible-toting Christians. How do we deal with this? It's embarrassing to our allies. It's embarrassing. But these are people, watch this, who love this country, who want it to be safe and secure and don't want a bunch of invaders to come in, outsiders to come in and shift the thrust. And evangelicals' mind, and some of you who've grown up in fundamentals will understand that evangelicals don't necessarily struggle with supremacy but superiority. We think we are the ones who have the message to save the world, and that America is that country that's going to preserve the Christian message and get it to the rest of the world. We need to remain a Christian country, and we need to control Congress, and we need to control the laws, and we need to command influence in this country. And they think we are losing it. They're losing that control with all these outsiders coming in. Some people think the scripture where Jesus is quoted as saying, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature," was King James rather than King Jesus. That it came out of 16th century King's English. Every creature, that sounds like a critter, an animal, something non-human. And subconsciously in some people's minds, and that's what Dr. King and others had to deal with, slaves coming over here were cursed with Cain's curse. They were black, impoverished. The presumption was that, and I heard that as a child growing up, you're cursed. You people are cursed with Cain's curse. That's why you're black. Everybody else is white. And then when you really study, you find out that most people who came to this planet or who were born on this planet were born with color in their skin. That's what the word hue means, human. White folks aren't white, they're pink. Black folks ain't black, they're navy blue. All of us is colored. All of us are humans, and we are a beautiful rainbow that is coming together. But now we're wrestling with outsiders. Who are the outsiders? And why are we allowing them to be our enemies if they're not? If most of the Nigerians and most of the Africans who come here, and I've said this for years, they're smarter than the African Americans that are already here. Most of them have degrees, and they come here seeking, and they know more about our culture and know about our government and know about our history more than we do. Other African Americans that are born here. Most of the outsiders come here with vision and dreams to excel and to exceed and to succeed and to make something of themselves, and yet we have categorized them as people from blank hole countries. That's not tolerable. That is not acceptable. That is not the dignity that this country is known for. But they're said and supported by people who say, well, no, we love God and we love the Bible and we love Christianity, we love Jesus, and we want family values, and we want, and that means a man and a woman being married, and we're pro-life, though we support the death penalty, and we dealing with this double standard that's out there. And I know these people. I used to feel that we are the country, we are the culture, but it has to be Christian and fundamentalist. And I know some parts of that are valid in people's thinking, but this whole idea of loving the country, loving God, loving the scriptures, loving people, and hating our enemies, and despising them and demeaning them, diminishing them. We can't let that happen. That's right. We must rise, all souls. We're really all souls. Now, Dr. King said the most segregated hour in America is 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. It's about 10:30 here, and you're still fairly segregated. And we believe differently. But of course, we have kind of segregated into different services here, so everybody's happy. We need to come together several times a year, all three services. Talk to me, somebody. And that's what we're working on, right? We're working on that. So we cannot be an integrated church that's segregated. A farce is a joke. A force is power that impels. Let the love that you share in your heart be a powerful force. And don't get complacent with the fact that we are progressive people, and that we have a charming pastor that has a word that really is one of the most exact and spectacular messages, and that this ministry, and I sat with Dr. Wolf, and he said the comment, "Make America Great Again," he said to me, he said, simply means make America white again. I said, what do you mean, sir? He said, that's really what's behind all that. I said, I think it means make America hate again legally. Let Americans bully people and mistreat people and demean and diminish people and get by with it. That's not good, and it's certainly not God. And we must not sit and watch it happen and not say something and do something and get the message and stir something up. I've been doing that online, and people are saying, well, we thought you were New Thought and we thought you were inclusive, and now you're dealing with issues. I'm dealing with my folk, that a culture that I grew up in, that I helped for my generation frame and identify, and I think if anybody has the right to say something about it, I do, because I'm not speaking as an outsider to that group. You know, they still call me bishop. I said, that I don't need that title. Y'all don't have to call me bishop. That does not cripple me. I will not allow the title or the collar to stop me from being free to say and think and be who I want to be and who I think I'm called to be. In a minute, we're going to sing the song, the national anthem of the African American culture, and we call it the national Negro anthem. But I want to tell you something about it just before we do that. Lift Every Voice and Sing was publicly performed first as a poem, as part of a celebration of Abraham Lincoln's birthday on February 12, 1900, by 500 black school children at a segregated Stanton school in Jacksonville, Florida. Its principal, James Weldon Johnson, wrote the words to introduce his honored guest, Booker T. Washington. The poem was set to music in 1905 by Johnson's brother. In 1919, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, dubbed it the Negro National Anthem. The first person I heard sing it was my mom. And even I was a little kid, she said that they had to sing that every day in the school that she was, one of the private Christian schools she went to as a kid. When she sang it, I got tears in my eyes. I'd never heard it. And it was the spirit in the song more than the lyrics that touched me, because I didn't understand everything at that time. But it was the Negro National Anthem was known for its power in voicing the cry for liberation and affirmation for American people. I remember tears welling up in my eyes on January 20, 2009, when I heard the Reverend Joseph Lowry, well into his 80s and formerly president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, use near verbatim recitation of the song's third stanza and beginning his benediction at the inauguration ceremony for President Barack Obama. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us to the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray. He was stooped and aged and had to have a little help standing there. The crowd there. I was in a boat with Wayman Tisdale, his last jazz cruise. He and I were sitting together in his suite that morning in the Caribbean waters. His cruise, nearly 2,000 people there because of him. In the executive suite, the presidential suite, my wife and I, Gina, were his guests, and we were right next door to him. And we were sitting there watching the inauguration. We couldn't go, though we both had invitations because we already had this thing booked. And we cried. I said, 400 or 500 years ago, Caribbeans from Africans coming to the Caribbean islands were in boats not like this, slave ships, in this water, rocking, not knowing where they were, tied and chained at the bottom of these ships, smelling and laying of their own vomit, their own excretions from their bodies, blood, sweat, tears, and fears. And the same regime that brought them over here now has elected one of their descendants to the White House. Wayman, we ought to be grateful. And we sobbed. We just broke and cried and watched the president. But I remember Joseph Lowry reading those words. They're very powerful. And when we sing them in a moment, think about and make yourselves, for the time we sing it, a Negro, a black person. If you don't understand it by color, try to understand it by experience, because black is not a color when it comes to this kind. It's an experience. Know what it is to feel rejected, to not know anything like white privilege, that you have an easier way, an easier path than any person of color, particular at this time in America, when you can be arrested and pulled over instantly in many of these cities just because of the color of your skin. It's hard to relate to that, but try to imagine, just like you've had other dreams. Dream a bad one for a second. And sing this song with a different kind of spirit. And see how it resonates in you. And let's keep doing and being who we are and making a difference in this world. I love you very, very much. I respect you.
You're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256, or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed
and be a blessing.